much detail you can give any of the producers about how we're going to begin? How are you going to, resolve a little bit and start with the next era for Jericho?
We start in the teaser of episode 1, and we pay off what happened at the end of 22. So you get to see how that battle was resolved and how that tank was used, and so we do that all in the teaser, and then we jump time a couple of weeks in Act 1, and we start to show you the occupation of the town.
Now, are there going to be new, not much you can say, but new characters, new twist on the mythology that maybe we didn't know about?
The government was always sort of a character in the background in the first season, and I think that they're sort of the biggest character in the second season, and we meet them a couple of different ways, one of which is through one of the soldiers that comes into, he's a little bit of the provost marshal in the area who's going to kind of both help us rebuild but also be in charge of the military. But then sort of we'll see through other faces how that government that had gone away and now has come back and reformed, it really is the biggest character, I think, in the second season.
Are there specific new characters we're going to see here?
Isai Morales is on the show for this episode, for this season, and he plays Major Beck, who's the face of the Cheyenne government in town. He's there to bring stability to Jericho, which is not going to be easy because Jericho's still sort of at war with New Bern. But he's also there to hunt Hawkins. So
he can try.
He's the most dangerous man on television. You and Belushi. It's both you guys. There's one thing that definitely will be different this season. No Gerald McCraney, I assume. What was that like? I mean, I'm curious because I don't know if he was, as he appears on screen, as sort of a father figure, but I assume it was tough first to see him go and now to be back at work without him.
He's such a presence, I think, everywhere, not just on screen. And I mean, the writers, we'd sit and just kind of listen to him tell stories all the time. But it was a weird thing because it was a character that was always sort of meant to be less, and he made it so much more. So, in a weird way, I think sort of his exit from that story was almost prolonged by how big he was. So it was tough, but his ghost tells so much more story than his presence did. So I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how his family and the people that had looked up to him deal with not having him around for the first time in a very long time.
He was amazing to work with and get to know personally. I think it's a great loss, just on the day-to-day. He's lovely. Besides that he likes to kill big animals. Yeah, he likes to kill. That freaks me out.
It's a small thing, but
I loved working with him. It's always fun to exchange dialogue with him, and he's such a unique individual and very powerful and so giving, and we really miss him. The first scene we shot was the scene where we're sitting down hashing out, trying to get the money out of the will and stuff like that in the pilot, and from that moment forward, you could just tell there was not only a professionalism, but he combs his scripts thoroughly and has so many questions about them and so much input about them, and it's a lot of fun to be around him, and certainly there's a lot to learn from him. So we do miss him a lot. I've had to, at least I get to talk to him every once in a while. So.
He's not really dead.
Just thinking of the show. I have a ghost show.
Yeah.
I assume the plan was it's not one of those surprise deaths. Like it seemed like that was part of the arc.
The character was always meant to die because Jake's arc was to be the prodigal son that returns and find redemption and step into this to become the man he's always meant to be, and that is to replace his father as the leader of this town. He's not there yet, but he goes a long way towards it at the end of 22. So the character of Johnston Green was always supposed to die. We just found this time it felt organically like the time. But he was awesome about it. He was great. He was totally on board. And the last thing we shot last season, and had we not been brought back by you people, the last thing we would have ever shot was him walking away with his father down Main Street and Jake watching him. And we literally were shooting that at like 3 in the morning. And it was just great. It was a whole night of hanging out with him and sort of reminiscing about the show, and then that was the last shot.
But why don't we let's get the questions and everybody.
Really love the show, and a fan of, big fan. My whole family is. I really love Skeet, your performance, and the depth, that kind of mystery you bring into the character. I was wondering, what did you draw on, or how did you get that?
I pretty much just tail Lenny around. He's pretty mysterious. And I try and act like him. Thank you, by the way, for enjoying the show. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to summarize how you put a character together. A lot of the work is done by our very talented writing staff, and you try and get out of the way as much as you can and let that story be the presence, you know. But I don't know. That's a large question. I'm not sure how I do any of it.
Writing staff, which is actually here today. Most of our writing staff: Robert Levine, Matt Fetterman, Steve Stein. Matthew Fetterman and Steve Stein, who brought you the tank in episode 13, and Matt Fetterman and Steve Stein, who brought you the line "nuts" in the finale.
I have him to thank for. My company sent 2.75 metric tons of nuts.
You rock.
To Nina Tasser. As a fan, and a lot of emotional investment into a new show like Jericho last year, I know you're thrilled that you got renewed. As a fan, I'm thrilled that you got renewed, but I'm also thrilled to see so many people in here as a result.
Yeah.
Hopefully that continues, which leads into my question to the producers, Carol, maybe to you. When the show got canceled, as a series arc, where were you in your mind whenever it was canceled? Were we in the beginning, in the middle? Did you have a kind of a preconceived ending? You know where I'm going with the question here?
Yes.
As an emotional investment, I want to know.
When we started the pilot, we had to deliver what we call a Bible of the show to the network to tell them sort of where it would go so that they could see that it could have multiple years of episodes. So we were at the end of season 1 when we were canceled. I mean, we knew what that arc was, and that's exactly the story we're meant to tell, and that was supposed to take us to this season, which this is the story we're meant to tell. So we have arced it out over several seasons, and every season is meant to take you to a place that satisfies certain mysteries and certain character arcs for that season, but then open up to the next level and show you what the next story will be should we get the next season. So we were exactly where we meant to be. Thank you. Thanks for sending the peanuts.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. My question is for the cast. What were some of the challenges in your roles versus previous roles you've done?
Well, I think not necessarily knowing the entire arc is a bit of a challenge, but they're very, they keep us we're well informed, but it's not in text form. It's not, so it's kind of hard to decipher sometimes where things are headed and how much import they should have, or if you should not really focus on one part of the story. But it's I don't know. It's I guess the challenge is always, finding the emotional honesty of scenes. It's I think what actors in general deal with on a daily basis, and it's always the same challenge, and to that extent.
I think for me, the hardest part of it was back home when we're doing kind of episodic television. The longest the season lasts for us is about 8 episodes. So the longest I've ever played a character is 8 episodes. And in the first season of this, it was 22 episodes. So I was really worried about being bored. And so I would keep going into the writer's room and go, make this guy more complicated. And that's kind of what they did really. But genuinely, that was the difficulty I had, was how do I sustain this character over such a kind of long arc? And then the thing that really took me by surprise is that at the end of the 22 episodes, I wasn't nearly done with him. And so I was real happy that we came back. And I don't think we can actually say it enough times, so I am going to say it one more time. Thank you very, very much.